Hi, I'm Christina and this is Cooking with Christina. Today we'll be making a fresh tomato bruschetta, which is just plump, ripe, summertime cherry tomatoes or plum tomatoes, fresh julienne basil, some garlic, olive oil, balsamic vinegar, and fresh baguette. So we'll just take the tomatoes. I have one in here from my dad's garden. Nice little heirloom. This is a wonderful summertime meal. Tomatoes are in season. The flavors are so fresh. It's easy. You can take the baguette. You can toast it on the grill. It's a great outdoor meal. So we'll just wash the tomatoes, a little shake, and begin to cut them. Again, this is so nice because you don't really have to warm up your oven, you don't have to cook. I also think of this as kind of a baseline dish. So you can take these tomatoes once they're cut and prepared, and for tomorrow you can add it into a salad, you can put it on bread, you can toss it with pasta. It really has a ton of options. So a lot of times you'll think you'll have leftovers and you won't. So it might be worth your while to double it. So we'll just take these tomatoes. We just washed them. We'll do the same thing with the basil, just to prepare all of our ingredients so once we start cutting, we can get right to it. This basil, a little licoricey, sweet, very fresh. Adding fresh herbs to anything will pretty much bump up the gourmet factor to 10 without adding too much cost and too much effort. And the nice thing about this is nothing has to be perfect. We'll take the basil, wrap it up in a little roll, almost like a cigar. And this is called a julienne cut. You'll just slice it right along and you end up with these beautiful little curly pieces. It's a really nice presentation, very fresh, and then when you're eating your bruschetta, you bite into these little pieces of basil. It's just like such a nice pop, such a sweet, savory, fresh taste. So you can see right here, this comes apart and it's so lovely. So I like to minimize dishes. Work out of one bowl. There's really no need for extra dishes. Set it to the side. I'm going to start to just slice the tomatoes down lengthwise. One by one, put them into your bowl. My boyfriend and I were at a restaurant for dinner and we ordered some bruschetta. And we both looked at each other and said, oh, we can do this pretty easily and probably better. We're the worst people to go out to dinner with. We're never satisfied. So we came home. The next day went to the farmer's market, got some great fresh tomatoes, mixed it up with some basil, all these little very easy core ingredients, and it's a total home run. So slice your tomatoes in half. Kind of let them marinate for a little bit. This is a nice thing to do at the beginning of your food preparation. But if your guests come over, you can always set them in the kitchen to slice the tomatoes. It's pretty foolproof. Give them a slice lengthwise. The salt and the vinegar will begin to permeate the flesh of the tomato, get into it, make them almost a little bit marinated. It's delicious. So we've sliced up the tomatoes, just laid them on top of the basil. We'll add 1 clove of garlic. We have this nice big head of garlic. Be careful getting into it. And I know they have garlic presses, but there's just something so satisfying about the crack of a knife against the garlic clove. So lay it on its side, put your knife down on top of the clove, and you'll use the butt of your hand right here to pop it down right here. You can see it just splits it right open. You can peel it so nicely, so easily. Spicy, fresh. There's nothing like the smell of fresh garlic. So we'll just mince this up a little bit. And here, if you'd like, you can put it through the garlic press. You can slice this up yourself. Get the little end off. Always keeping your hands out of the way, letting the knife do the work. 1 clove of garlic is fine for this recipe. A little bit goes a long way, and this was a pretty big clove. I was doing a demonstration of this and a friend had come in, and he came in and I said, oh, you have to try this. So he tries it and leaves, and he comes in the following week, and I asked him how he liked it, and he says, you know, your recipe was great, but it gave me the worst breath on the way to my appointment, so thanks a lot. So I don't know if you trust me to have him taste another one of my recipes, but if everybody's eating it, it's all good. So you'll take your minced garlic, again, just using 1 bowl, layer it on top, get all the goodness here. And now we'll do a little bit of olive oil, about 2 tablespoons. A little balsamic vinegar. Now balsamic vinegar I'm pretty picky about because I love it. And I feel like when you really love things, you care a lot about it. This is a wonderful vinegar I picked up in Queen Anne. And this is a gentleman out of West Seattle. It's called 11 Olives. It's awesome. It's really like balsamic syrup. So in this recipe, I say take your time and find a really good balsamic vinegar. You can always do a reduction. Put whatever vinegar you have into a pan over low heat. Just simmer it a little bit, thicken it up, and you can see it really has a syrup-like consistency. So a few tablespoons of this. Pouring over the top. Nothing better. A little bit of salt. A little fresh cracked pepper. And give it a stir. And you'll want to let this sit for about 20 minutes or so before you serve it. You can see the olive oil and the balsamic coating everything, making it nice and glossy. The acids from the balsamic will begin to break down the basil and tomatoes just enough so it really begins to marry and meld together. And once it's mixed, put it on the side, let it sit, and we'll cut up our baguette. So this is a par-baked baguette. And what that means is that the company who makes it halfway through. And then they send it to you in a bag and they say bake the rest at home, which is awesome because A, you can have fresh baked bread from your oven when you're ready, and B, you can only bake as much as you want. So say I'm serving it just to myself or to one other person, I could just cut it, place maybe half of it in the freezer, and then work with the piece I wanted, take it out of the freezer, bake it, 10 minutes usually, 5 to 7 sometimes, and it's ready to go. If I did bake this whole thing and people didn't eat as much bread as I thought they would, the outside will tend to get a little bit hard, and you tend to think that the bread is bad, and a lot of people throw it away or make it into breadcrumbs. But you can let it go one more day by rinsing it underneath the faucet, allow a little bit of water. You can even use a squirt bottle to spray the outside crust. Pop it in the oven, 350 degrees for a few minutes, just 2 to 3, and the water will soak into the crust and really revitalize it. It's like brand new. So I did break this whole baguette, and we'll just cut into it, cutting it at the diagonal, about ½ inch thick. So we have this really nice open space. And from here, if you're barbecuing outside, brush it with a little bit of olive oil, place it right on the grill. Since I'm not outside right now, I'll go ahead and put it in my oven for just a few minutes to crisp up the center of the bread. Alright, so I've cut up my baguette. I'm just going to place it on the cookie sheet. my little home, I have minimal space, so all about using less dishes, maximizing time, maximizing space. So once you place those on the cookie sheet, I'm just going to put a little bit of olive oil into a glass dish. And these are actually candle holders. They're great to use in the kitchen. Just enough space for salt or herbs. A lot of times if you're making like a spice mix, these work out fantastic. You can tell I've put my pastry brush in the dishwasher. It's got personality. So I'm just going to brush this a little bit with the olive oil so that it crisps up. Not too much. Use good olive oil here, allowing it to be really fruity, really olive oily, have that nice green olive bite to it. Flip them over. Do the same thing on this side. So I'm going to pop these in the oven for just a few minutes. You can set the oven to broil or 425, just enough so it's nice and high, and you can just hit it with a nice dose of heat and then take them out. You want the center, the outside to be a little crusty and the inside to still have that doughy, nice, soft bite to it. So these were in the oven for 5 minutes or so. They have a nice crispiness to the outside, pretty warm still. And we'll just take our bruschetta mixture, give it a little stir here, get our basil nice and mixed in. And then you'll just take this and top it on the bread, and it's ready to go. A nice little bite.